Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. I'm Jade Harrell, and I'm joined by Amber Clear, Amy Rivera, and Jami Ballantyne Dobie. So good to see you ladies again.
It is so good to see you.
I am loving your looks. I can't seem to get off of how good you look. I hope you feel as good as you look. But tell me, Jami, what are you loving?
I'm really loving the vibes right now. Like wherever I go, I'm feeling good energy and good vibes. So I'm loving you ladies because it's part of the energy, part of the vibe. So that's what I'm loving at the moment.
Vibe on. Amber, Clear, what are you loving? It's always something juicy.
I am absolutely thankful and loving the people who ask for clarification rather than assume things in life, because at the end of the day, we are a summation of our own experiences and the voices that we allow in our lives. If we don't listen and allow more voices, we don't grow as people.
Nice. And you know what happens when we assume. What's good, Amy? What are you loving lately?
What I'm loving is I'm loving what Jami and both Amber said, the vibes and the clarifications. I've connected with 44 authors, primarily from St. Louis, and we're releasing our first anthology, April 21st, called Shift with Intention to Soar. And I love that we're putting St. Louis on the map for a much more positive viewpoint and working together. So that's what I'm loving.
I am loving that too. One of the things about these loving conversations is that it always excites me and invites me to look into something else or think about something so deeply. So when I say, what are you loving? You guys really bring the love, and I appreciate that. We need that love, especially now. Thursday, November 18th, is actually National Injury Prevention Day. And there's an organization in the area which aims to prevent childhood injuries. When we return, we'll be speaking with the co-president of Women's Voices Raised. When we come back, don't move.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Whew. And welcome back to Let's Talk. In the past several weeks, the St. Louis community has experienced the unfortunate and untimely deaths of young people due to firearms. On Mother's Day in 2013, Women's Voices Raised launched a campaign to bring awareness to common sense gun solutions. Since then, this organization has continued to do the work of raising awareness about gun safety. Joining us now for a timely conversation is the co-president of Women's Voices Raised, Ruth Ehresman. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I am loving the opportunity to be here, to be part of the conversation with you amazing women. It's a real privilege.
Thank you so much. Well, take us to what led you to co-found Women's Voices Raised around this issue in particular.
Well, Women's Voices Raised for Social Justice was actually founded 16 years ago, and it started as a group of committed women sitting around a kitchen table. And from those beginnings, we've grown to an organization with more than 500 members. So we're very excited about that. Back in 2015, we started looking at the issue of gun violence as a public health issue. People think of gun violence as being related to crime, but we think that's the wrong perspective. We think if we treated gun violence like other public health issues, we could really do preventive work. And that's when we began our Common Sense Gun Solutions Committee. And part of the work of that committee is Lock It for Love. And Lock It for Love is the program that we use to reach out to community members to educate them about the importance of safely storing firearms in their home and give away free gun locks.
That's terrific. Now, there's so many social issues, and definitely in our region. And Locks for Love is what it's called, you said?
Lock it for love.
Lock It for Love. Well, I believe that's what locked you all in at that kitchen table. But why this area in particular? Was there something that personally connected you to gun violence and with our youth specifically?
Personally, I have spent a lot of my adult life working as an advocate on issues that affect children. And I think like too many of us, yes, personal gun violence touched my life. I had an uncle who died by suicide, and a very tragic death of the son of I'm a church musician in part of my life, and one of my choir members' teenage son died by suicide using a gun that he took from his uncle's house. The gun that was not secured, was just in the closet. He knew it was there. He was in a bad place in his life, not something that couldn't have been surmounted, but he just felt overwhelmed and went to the house, took the gun, and died. Those kinds of injuries are particularly tragic because they are preventable. So far in St. Louis in 2022, there have been 4 incidents of unintentional shootings involving children. These are children who harmed themselves and others because they had access to a gun that was unlocked, that was stored, left on a coffee table, left on a nightstand, left in a closet. Children are sometimes inadvertently harmed by shootings on the street, but it just seems particularly tragic when we know that these things could be prevented if we treated storing our guns safely the same way we take a public health approach to using car seats and baby seats and bicycle helmets and storing poisons, and the way we've come to understand the harm of smoking. We hope that we want to normalize the conversation about safely storing guns, so this can be considered a public health issue, and we can really do preventive work like we do on those other things that we do to protect our young children.
So is it the safety, the common sense approaches that address the public issue? So it's not the car or the gun, is what you're saying. It's not the cigarettes. It's the use, awareness, and response to those dangers. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. By educating parents and helping them understand the gravity of the need to safely store guns in their home. Because kids are, even if they receive, there are studies that show even when children are told not to touch guns, they do. They're fascinated. Early on in our efforts to go out into the community, we had a disabled gun that we used to show people how to properly apply the lock, and kids are just drawn to those guns. I mean, it was absolutely scary, and we don't do that anymore. We're using pictures now in place of the disabled gun. But when parents think that they've hidden a gun or they've told a child not to touch the gun and they're safe, they're really fooling themselves.
I think that's so true. I think it has to be more than putting the gun away. It has to be more than a talk. I'm a gun owner. My family is also a victim of gun violence related to, we had a 6-year-old cousin just a few years ago and was tragically killed when she found when another sibling found the father's gun. It was put away, so they thought it was hidden. But kids find things, kids get into things. And I think there's 2 pieces. It's one, the debate can go on for years about proper training if you choose or choose not to give your child proper gun training and gun safety training. But whether you do or not, you have to lock the gun up. And I personally am a believer of, I have this policy. I say, show me yours and I'll show you mine. Before my kid goes to somebody's house, I'll show you my gun lock if you show me your gun lock or gun safe. I'm not, it has to be an open conversation also about where your child goes and what's in the home of every home that you're visiting or in the vehicle of every vehicle that your child is going to be in. It is not enough to put the gun away. I believe in personally a double safety or triple safety, really. The gun should be on safety, the gun should be locked, and the gun itself should then be in a safe as well. And there are other things I understand they're for protection, but we can't protect our homes and we can't protect ourselves if we're not protecting our children. So salute to you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you, Jami. I'm so sorry, about your family member, and you're absolutely right. And when we first started this work, we were nervous about approaching people. Like, how do you ask somebody if they have a gun that's not secured? Because we're not saying that people should not have guns. We understand that having a gun is a right. And with that right comes responsibilities. And actually, we have found people to be very open when we just approach them in a very straightforward manner and said, do you have a gun in your home that's not secured? And if you do, we're happy to give you a lock. We're not being judgmental. And it's important that parents, as you said, Jami, are comfortable asking those questions, whether it's somebody's car or somebody's home or a relative's home. We just have to normalize that conversation.
Absolutely.
I want to send my condolences to both you, Ruth, and Jami, for your losses in this way, and anyone else who has experienced that pain. Ladies, I know we have so much more to talk about, and Amber and Amy have more to contribute as well. So let's just take a quick break. And if you'll just stay with us, we'll have more with Ruth Ehresman of Women's Voices Raised when we come back.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund Reading.
Why do you not get me?
I do. This is what it feels like for kids with learning and attention issues. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. And this talk in particular is challenging. We're grateful to be speaking with Ruth Ehresman. She's the co-founder of Women's Voices Raised. And we are talking about safety, gun safety, and injury prevention for our youth. And we were talking about the responsibility of gun owners and proper care and keep. Where does training fall into your message, Ruth? And does it, is that a part of your common sense teaching?
Well, it is. When we give out gun locks, we talk to parents about our caregivers, our grandmas and grandpas, about the importance of this. And we show them how to use the lock, because it can fit different kinds of guns. And so we help them understand that. And we try to, affirm the things that we've said, that it's important to know where your children are with their friends, with family, to know that the guns that are there are awfully safely stored. And sometimes, people we suggest that if they have multiple guns, they might use the lock on a cabinet rather than on the gun. Put the gun in the cabinet, store the ammunition separately. If you have opioids or prescription medication that kids should not have access to, put that in the cabinet with it. This can be a 2-for-1 to keep kids safe. And we do feel like making connections with people and educating them is important. We're trying to partner with organizations in the community to also distribute these, because we know that Women's Voices Race for Social Justice, it is a volunteer organization. We cannot be everywhere in the metropolitan area. So it's really important that that this spread out and that we can be the impetus and we can be supportive, but it's important that this is embraced by the entire community. And actually, I will say that we're very excited. Just this past week, we had an agreement with the St. Louis Public Libraries, and gun locks are available at all 16 branches of libraries in the city. No questions asked. The guns or the gun locks are there, information on how to use them, and a link to a video. They're also available at fire departments, and we have partnerships with the Urban League and Better Family Life, also to distribute these locks. And we visit community health fairs, back to school fairs, any kind of parent-teacher meetings. We've done more than 240 of these, and we've given out over 10,000 locks since we began the program. But we realize that that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we're very excited about spreading the word about this important issue.
I just want to say that I am so proud of you that you're not just being about it, you're doing something about it. And I just want to tell you how thankful I am to have somebody like you that is action-centered in the community.
Ruth, what are some resistance or opposition you have to the work you're doing in this area? What are the challenges?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, one challenge is just the scope of the need, that for sure. I think a second challenge is trying to help people understand that there are ways they can still have their gun accessible, even though it's locked. I know a lot of people that I've talked to feel like they need that gun next to them on their nightstand, to be safe at night. And, I recognize that. And I respect people's feelings around that. So my message to them is, the very last thing you do when you go to bed is unlock that gun. And the very first thing you do in the morning when you get up is lock it again. Before you brush your teeth, before you go in the bathroom, wash your face, have a cup of coffee, that gun goes back and is safely stored. So, definitely our message is not that people can't have guns, but they just need to be responsible about storing them.
I'm sure they'd appreciate it. I'm sure they'd appreciate it, because if anything were to go awry, those would be the reminders of where something did. Brushing your teeth and that little girl is gone. Waking up and there's nobody to make breakfast for, or you're carrying the hurt and loss. And the scope of it, I can imagine, is tremendous. I want to applaud you on the coordination and efforts you've had with the library and Urban League and other organizations, A Better Family Life. Those are tremendous places and opportunities. So bravo.
Thank you.
Let's go back to you, Amber.
Something that I have a question on is, how are you guys getting funding and how can we help?
Well, our funding has come from, we did have a grant from the city, and the Psy Foundation has helped us with money to purchase gun locks, and then individuals have made contributions to, to enable us to do that. So how you can help us, we always need more person power. We would love to have people join Women's Voices Race for Social Justice, to become part of that Common Sense Gun Solution Committee, to help us distribute locks at community events. That would be amazing.
So I grew up around guns, and I've always heard, the argument between the parents. When do you start educating the children about gun safety and all the other programs that go into that? Like, what is a good age to start talking to your children about it?
Amy, I grew up with guns too. I actually grew up on a farm. My dad was a hunter. We had a gun behind the kitchen door. I think it's never too early to start talking about gun safety, but you have to remember that kids are curious and they're going to experiment. They're going to find that, they're going to show it to their friend. While education is important, I think we can't have to be very clear that it is not, that doesn't absolve us from the adult responsibility of keeping the weapons safely stored.
What do you think the difference is from 20 years ago with gun safety versus now?
I think it's just the prevalence of guns. I have to say, I saw the remake of West Side Story, and it was a big deal because somebody in the gang had a gun. I don't know, and it was so striking because that is not a big deal today.
Now it's a bigger deal if you don't have one.
Right. Guns are everywhere. And I think certainly that's one of the things that is different from 20 years ago. And it's so sad because when you talk to young children, particularly children in high-risk areas in the city, and I live in South City in a pretty high-risk district, and it's way too many kids have personal experience with gun violence. They know people who've been shot, a family member, a friend. Many young Black kids assume they're going to be shot.
Mm.
That is tragic. And I think that is something that has become more prevalent. So we have to find a way to step back from this.
Yeah. You mentioned the 20 years ago difference, the glamorization of guns, while guns always held a certain place of authority and power, it's a cultural thing now. And there's not much with regard to the impact or what happens once a gun is fired or to the person on the other end of that bullet. Jami, you probably could speak to this too, that space. Like, what can we do? There's a disconnect in those genres where a gun is a party, but there's a life on the other end that we need to wonder about.
I think with any crime prevention, right? And I know, Ruth, you all do, you talk about all type of injuries and protecting children as a whole when it comes to public health matters like gun violence. I think really what it comes down is being responsible. When we talk about trauma with children, at the end of the day, they're children. And so as we're protecting them from whether it be gun violence, bullying, car seat injuries, all of that, the responsibility lies on the parent. At the end of the day, no matter what age, no matter what they're exposed to, I believe if they're 16, they are still a child. And so we have to take responsibility as adults, and we have to align ourselves with organizations like Ruth is a part of, and really take the resources that are available to us and listen to what you have to say. And I think that's why it's so important what you do, Ruth. So thank you.
And Ruth, it's good to hear and know that you don't just stop there. You mentioned, hey, put the opioids in the cabinet too. There's more to what you do than just gun violence. You mentioned women's voices for social justice. Can you share briefly some of the areas that you're working in that align with your mission?
Yes, yeah, we are a multi-issue organization, and I have to correct one thing. I am not one of the founders of the organization. I'm currently the co-president, but not a founder. But yes, so some of the other issues that we're heavily involved in are around voting rights. People talk about women being given the right to vote. We were not given the right to vote. We won the right to vote after decades of hard work, just as African Americans. won the right to vote. And we're very concerned about the backlash now against and bills that have been filed to curb voting rights. We're very interested in healthcare. Affordable housing has been an effort where we've tried to put some effort, as well as criminal justice reform.
Wow. Well, Ruth, you've got to have us at your kitchen table, and we thank you for joining us at ours. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go and say goodbye, can you tell everyone where they can learn more about your organization and get involved?
Absolutely. Yes. The best place to go would be our website. It's www.womensvoicesraised.org, all one word. And we would love to have folks join us and to be a part of this work. We're as strong as our members. And so by joining our voices, you're strengthening our work. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Now that's a vibe for us, Jami. Well, yes. Thank you so much. We want to take one more last break, and we will let you all think about what you just heard, and we'll talk about it more when we return. Stay with us. And welcome back. Amy had to step away, but we'll continue on our conversation. We just need to reflect on it a little bit. You know something, Amber and Jami, you made me think about the children and how they approach all of these areas, from the violence to their needs, to the resources, to the challenges, to even hunger. You know, a kid could pick up a stick and it'll be a gun at this point, you know, or even their finger. I wonder what it would look like to have them demonstrate unlocking their toy gun, or, you know, if even in the videos or something, somebody's unlocking it in a movie before they had to go address. Like, we don't see how we're looking at the life of it and the life of the children. That's what really stuck out to me.
It's interesting that you say that, because some of like the larger, in our house, we call them Nerf blasters. We use the word blaster unless it's an actual gun, so that there's no confusion that this is not a gun. Guns are real, and guns have one mission, and they do one thing, and that is they're made for deadly harm, right? And so we don't mix in our household. If you're playing with your finger or a water blaster or thing like that, that's not a gun. And so I also think we have to talk about terminology. But some of the Nerf blasters that we have, the bigger ones, they're coming with almost like a safety lock on them. And so that's something to consider. They have to normalize the locks, normalize locking them, and also normalize not calling them guns. There's no such thing as a toy gun.
Right.
Guns are real, and guns kill, and they're not toys. And that's the easiest way, I think, and the first way to teach our children that there's nothing funny, there's nothing playful about a gun. And so once we get to that step, then you can start teaching them safety and aligning with the rules that apply for personal households and such. So
that's right. That's right. And you helped me with thinking about normalizing. I used to bother the children with this. They'd be on video games and said, I killed him. Or I said, no, you didn't kill anybody. You know, I'm not going to kill anybody. Like, normalizing that these are not toys and death is not for play.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
We're not scaring you to lose your life, you know. Amber, I feel you, and I'm not even gonna, unless you want to say something.
I think that gun safety, especially for kids, is something that both sides of the gun argument should be agreeing on. This is a common ground that if you're not on the side of safety for kids, then
that's the end of the day. That's the end of the day. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and I can't wait till we get to talk again. But I'd love to thank our guest, Ruth Ehresman from Women's Voices Raised, for social justice. And thank you for joining us. The show may be over, but you can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or visit us at stltv.net. I'm Jade Harrell for Amber Clear, Amy Rivera, and Jami Ballantyne Dolby. We'll see you next time on Let's Talk.